Welcome to Coaches Roundtable. I'm Ed Codi, and welcome our guest, the Associate Head Coach for Pitt Basketball, Tim O'Toole, in his sixth year, a long career, over 30 years. And Coach, thanks for joining us. Take a peek at last year, and Pitt was 22-11, 12-8 in the ACC, fourth place, beat Duke at Duke, but for whatever, some bogus reason, you guys were snubbed for the tournament. I'm not sure anyone has figured out why. The only thing I ever heard of was you lost to a terrible Missouri team. How does one game like that factor into you guys not being invited to the dance?
Yeah, I agree with you, Ed. I think it's just an absolute dishonest kind of selection process. The fact that that game was played in late November, we had a young, backcourt, blah, 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 blah. Like all those coaches, you kind of that are on this roundtable right now, you kind of understand you have to develop your team over a period of time. But as you mentioned, we beat Duke on the road, we beat Virginia on the road, we beat NC. Like we won a whole bunch of road games. And the reality in our profession, as you know, and we know this because we've been around the ACC for a number of years now, historically, if you can finish in the top four, that you've got enough of the pieces to the puzzle to do significant damage in that NCAA tournament. You just know it by, again, that's historical data. And I don't think it was a shock when you saw NC State kind of march through it, because the narrative that was being portrayed was one that didn't make sense to anyone. And unfortunately, they're saying, we got off to a rough start. Well, wait a second. If you look at the schedule, Ed, all right, we lost to Missouri. We lost to Florida, which was an NCAA team. We lost to Clemson at home in early December. To start the ACC, right, Syracuse we lost, but they weren't horrible. It was Duke and Carolina. They were ranked in the top 10. We lost to pretty good teams. And then we had the wherewithal to kind of fight through it and kind of become a really, really good team. And then it was just, for whatever narrative they were trying to portray and display, they stuck to their guns, which made no sense to anyone. And that's why you saw Jay Billis, you saw Seth Greenberg and those guys the day of the selection show, like, hey, you got to put down any of the analytics and the stuff you're doing and use the eye test. And Lenardi was like, no. And it was just it was nonsense. However, getting back to your point now, Ed, is that we've got to take that and realize, hey, we've got so much to prove, and we got a good young group, and every day you got to fight for things, and it's kind of fuel to our fire as we start this season, because everything does matter, and that. I mean, every coach knows that, but it has more of a ring to it, because again, this was November, and I think it was November 28th or whatever it was. It's just hard to believe when you look at the other schools and who they played, that they were going to try to pin Pitt on this, which was also a crock, because the reality was all that time during March Madness when they were leading up, no matter what Pitt did, I don't care what we did, it seemed like the goalposts were always getting moved back on us. And even when we beat Wake in the quarterfinals, I mean, Wake was really, really good. And we're playing Carolina in the semis, and it just seemed like, well, they got to beat them. It's like, it was insane. And however, sometimes bad things happen, and you got to fight through it. And that's kind of where we are today.
Well, let's look at this year coming up. There's a lot of excitement. You have some players, two star players, moved on to the NBA, and Bob Carrington and Blake Hinson, and Federico transferred to Texas Tech. But you got some great players coming back, and Ishmael Leggett and Jalen Lowe, and then the Graham brothers, and then Houston transfer, get a tremendous guard in Damian Dunn. What a backcourt you're going to have, not to mention adding the freshman guard, Brandon Cummings. And then you get some big help up front with Houston transfer, the 6'10" Cameron Corn. He should help with your inside scoring.
Ed, you know our team better than I do. You're absolutely right. We are excited. It's unfortunately, and especially for those coaches out there with you right now, one of the hardest things in our little world. And again, I don't know what level you're at, whether you're in high school or college or AAU, whether you're grammar school. Retention has become a huge thing in college basketball, and we were able to retain, as you mentioned, the twins, Zach Austin, Ish, it was Papa Conte, Marlon. We were able to keep these guys. And then, as you mentioned, the addition of uh, Cam Corn, Damian Dunn, and then throw in the three new guys with Bieber Cummings, as you just alluded to. Amdi is going to be really good, and Amsel. We were able to retain, we were able to add, and we were able to get good young guys, and so we're very excited about the group that we do have. And as you know, Ed, much of this, this whole process, and now it's been faster on the college level because you only have them for a year, at least theoretically, that's what you've got. And so you've got to get your team kind of ready and ready fast. And so when you have older guys that have been here that we were able to retain, good new talent, and then a really good young crew, you got pieces to the puzzle. But the reality is you're a group of individuals, especially in October going into November, and we've got to forge that to where they become a team. And then going back to what you just mentioned with the team we had last year, and Bub and Jalen in the backcourt, Ish was new, and Blake did an unbelievable job with those young guards about letting them kind of mature into who they were supposed to become. And so that's going back to even last year's, just the insane narrative was that, yeah, we became a team at the right time. And for whatever reason, the selection show, NCAA, all that nonsense, it didn't matter. And however, if you're a coach, you have a bunch of guys that you have an idea what it looks like in the beginning, and then how are you going to bring these guys along so that you become that strong fighting unit that's known as a team at the end when it matters most. And we're excited about that. I mean, there's things we've got to do to kind of tighten some things up. And however, that being said, we kind of like who we have, and now we got to keep fighting and getting them tougher, and so that we can have a great season.
Coach Cape was known for his slow pace of play. Only Virginia and Notre Dame played a slower pace. What's his philosophy about slowing the game down when so many teams just want to run and shoot today?
Yeah, see, I don't think that at all. I mean, again, we can look at analytics. Your job is to win, right? And so, however you're going to figure that out, that's how we play. Now, that being said, again, I just look at our team right now, and what you want to do, coach, is always he's the guy who wants to score. I mean, that's how he was as a player, and that's how we are as a team. And yet, you want to make sure if you're trying to beat Duke, you're trying to beat Virginia, you're trying to beat Carolina, you got to put yourself in a position to do those things at the end of the game. And I don't think we've ever been like, hey, we're walking this thing up or slowing it down. We just want to get the best shots possible, and with the right guys shooting them, so we can put ourselves in a position to win. And again, I just think with Ken Palm and these other guys, I mean, it sounds good. And if this is television's narrative about, I don't understand it, but I do know what you want to do is you want to score more than the other team. And it sounds kind of silly, but I do think everyone can get really carried away. But everyone that's on this roundtable right now, you guys know, as do I, and Bob Knight said this a long time ago. There's two things, especially when you're doing your scouting. Two, how do we score more? And how do we prevent them from scoring, making them score less? And if you do that, you're going to be successful. And so it's Cape. It's funny. I was fortunate to coach Jeff when he played, and Coach K back then, and this was open. Those guards had a lot of room to run, and they had latitude. That's how Cape is played, and that's kind of how we play. And and so regardless of pace, it's that's kind of what we do, and it's and we're excited about again because we have guys that we think can score, and we want to use it to our advantage.
Hey, Coach, in the final minute, this year maybe headed for the greatest year in Pitt athletics with the football team 7-0, the women's volleyball team ranked number 1, the men's soccer team ranked number 1. How much of that energy are you guys going to feed off of in this coming basketball season?
Yeah, it's funny. I'm glad you brought that up, Ed, because we've been so blessed, and we love Pittsburgh. We love the city. We love the university. We love Allegheny County. We love the support. And it's interesting. You guys are from here, so you're familiar with it. I'm a New Yorker that's kind of been all over the place because coaching has taken me around the United States. But the reality is there's a pride, there's a grit, there's a beauty, there's a magic to Pittsburgh, to all the people around here, that there's something deeper inside the intestinal fortitude, the character, the people that live here, reside here, and the teams they support and where they want to be around, that's magic, especially if you're in our world, because at the end of the day, it's about results. And you just mentioned about football, about volleyball, about where the athletic department is. Now, what we also know is, hey, man, there is a responsibility when you're at the University of Pittsburgh. You're not only at the U and you're in the ACC, no, you're representing the whole city. And this is what we learned, especially 2 years ago, when Nellie Cummings was here and JB Jamarius Burton and Nike Sabande, that all of a sudden, when they put on those black uniforms and it had the P on it, that's the only uniform they wanted to wear. And they felt that surge. They felt that they were part of something bigger, which is what the city of Pittsburgh is. And as you mentioned, the university is doing that right now. And I do think our guys, it's organic and they know it. And now we got to go back it up, because there's certain things that, we have some strengths, but we have some things we need to tighten up. And, and I do think toughness, which is what this city is based on, is the magic that we have to try to recreate. And because the reality is, I think all of you people that are from here, this, because whether your descendants were from the steel mills or the mines, whatever it might be, there's a toughness about Pittsburgh that the teams have to embody. And I think, as you mentioned, those other sports have done it, but we have to, this is part of what we have to do too. We have to recruit to it, but we have to play that way. And if we can do that, then we do get the support of the city and everything else. And then we become a tough fighting unit, which is what our goal is.
Hey, Coach, great talking to you. Have a great season. Hope to talk to you when you're headed to the NCAA tournament. Take care.
From your lips to God's ears, Eddie. Thank you, guys, and I hope you have a great morning.
I am back, joined to my right by the Swami, George Abraham. To my left, the Tiger, Albert Campman. Guys, let's go high school football. The end of the regular season. The top rushers: Kayvon Gardner, Newcastle, 177. Antonio Lari, Rochester, 144. Owen Bish, Union AC Valley, 137. Eric Kasparovich, Mars, 110. Cody Mullen of Knock, 110. And Robbie Janis of Riverside, 107. Passing, what a year this kid's had. Joe Felitsky, North Catholic, 358. It puts him well over, I think he's close to 2,500 yards passing this year. Alec Teff of Butler, 190. Drew Ross of Freeport, 159. Cole Johnson, Carn City, 146. Nate Walker of Mars, 136. Kyrell Harris of Newcastle, 132. Cody Mullen of Knock, 127. Owen Bish, Union AC Valley, 112 and 4 TDs. Porter Kelly of Hampton, 110. Aiden Gatos of Riverside, 110. Receiving, what a year this kid's had. Over 1,000 yards now on a season. Riker Kennedy, North Catholic, 7 for 122 yards. Ray Crisop of Hampton, 6 for 104. Chase Lemon of Newcastle, 7 for 60. And Owen Naystein of Freeport, 4 for 50.
I think Felitsky and Kennedy are close to breaking records.
They're the leaders in the WPIAL.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
You remember Joe Felitsky's dad?
Oh, yeah.
Central Catholic, went to Notre Dame.
Oh, absolutely.
And transferred to Pitt and died in his 30s, I believe. Very young when he passed
So that
away.
combination is an amazing combination. But the dinosaur that I am.
Yeah.
I'm going to say the dinosaur.
I wonder if he's.
Don't forget, there was Terry Hanratty at Butler.
Yeah. I wonder if he's Joe. His father was 6'4". I wonder how big this kid is.
Somebody told me he's a nice sized kid. That's Central Valley. But I was going to say, today's records are made to be broke. Because they throw more in one quarter.
Yeah.
Than we did for 4 games.
Yeah, I used to say
North Catholic takes the ball and throws the ball every play. So then in the first quarter, they throw more passes. I mean that.
Bradshaw used to throw 17 for the game. They'll throw 17 and a quarter.
When I played for Bernardi, we threw 10 passes.
No, that's what I'm saying. So I know how good they
were in warm-ups.
So I know how good Felitsky and Kennedy are.
Yeah, and they were bombs usually too.
But talking about stats drives me nuts today because the game is completely
so different. Hey, cross country, this kid's had a tremendous career. Freeport senior Michael Braun. He won the WPL Class 2A Boys Cross Country Championship with a time of 15 minutes, 8.9 seconds. It was the best time in all the classifications. Awesome. And in girls, the North Catholic girls finished second behind Hampton's, 89 points. They were 10 points behind. And in girls tennis PIAA 2A semifinals, Lower Moreland defeated WPL champs North Catholic 4-1. Girls WPL volleyball playoffs. How about this semifinals coming up? NA 15-1 versus Upper St. Clair 13-5, and North Catholic 15-2 versus Campman 16-1.
As we say on the show, and George, especially George, if you want to see great athletes and great sports, go to volleyball in this area.
Outstanding.
Yeah, well, what Pitt's proven, they don't get a lot of local players. I understand that, but it's a growing sport over and over.
They're getting one.
Yeah, Pitt and Penn State have one girl, and she's state college, so she's probably non-Scully because her parents work there. She goes for nothing.
In the 3A semis, Mars 3, Indiana 0, Freeport 3, Char Valley 2. Hampton will take on Beaver in the semis, and a rematch between Mars and Freeport. That should be a great one. Girls soccer, District 9, just like home. For the last 22 years.
How many years?
Last 22 years, the Karn City girls have played in the title game, and they've won many of them. They need a trophy case just for their soccer championships. A District 10 boys soccer, the Sidrock High School boys going for a 3-peat. And WPIAL 4A semis, boys soccer, Plum takes on North Allegheny. And in 3A, Mars will take on Franklin Regional.
I want to go back to that slipper up one.
Yeah.
It's interesting to me.
3-peat.
I want to hear what you guys have to say about it. Can a school that size be great and soccer and football?
It's hard.
I think it's really difficult.
Yeah.
Yes.
You choose which one where North Allegheny they can be good in both.
But look what Karn City does. They share them during the season.
Oh, they can share. Okay.
Yeah.
They'll do that.
Yeah, that Silverhawks aren't that small, but as you say, to do
You're right,
both
they're not as
well.
small as I think they are. You're right, but I get it. I
to
get
do both well,
Mhm.
it's a task. You don't see it. When Ed says something, I always perk up when I hear someone that is like Karn City,
Right.
good in both.
Right.
WPL girls soccer semis. North Allegheny will take on Fox Chapel, Seneca Valley on Campman, and the 2A North Catholic takes on Quaker Valley. WPL football playoffs, 6A, 4 teams, and this is ongoing problem. Central Catholic 8-2 plays Seneca Valley 3-7, and I'm not demeaning Seneca Valley, but that game 2 weeks ago was 61-7.
That's all you got to know.
Central Catholic, and NA 9-1 takes on Mount Lebanon 3-7. They won the first meeting 28-21, but it's playoffs now.
Yeah, and we're gonna continue to talk about that forever.
That's the elephant in the WPL room.
Yes.
In 5A, there are 12 teams. Pine Richard and USC get byes. Pine will take on the winner of North Hills and Franklin Regional. In 4A, there are 8 teams. Mars 5-5 at Montour. Montour was upset by West Allegheny 13-7 last week. So you have all these different situations going on in different classifications, and that's why it's structured. One no buys or all buys, and with some week no games.
You have 12 teams in a tourney, and 6A has 4.
Yep.
So right there, there's 2 more. There's a 2-week pattern there where someone's either not playing or they're playing out of district.
In 3A, there are 12 teams. Freeport will take on Mount Pleasant at Freeport. North Catholic 4-6. They're at Deer Lakes 8-2. And in 2A, Elwood City 9-0. They get a bye. They'll take on the winner of South Allegheny and Waynesburg. And Riverside 5-5 is at Olsh. Riverside and Elwood could only meet in a championship game.
That interests me that Elwood undefeated got a 3 seed. I thought they get at least a 2 seed. I was surprised with that.
Well, we ranked them number 1. So, and then 1A, there are 16 teams. Rochester 3-6. Good luck, buckle up, boys. They're at Clareton 10-0. Clareton won their last game 84-0.
Clareton leads the WPL in points scored.
Yes.
And points against.
and once again, we'll hear this. Well, our team got beat 56-0 in the playoffs. What was your team's record? 3-7. You were playing the 9-1 or 10-0 team. What did you think was going to happen?
Well, I've said it before, and I'll say it again to you fans. If you're not 5-5, you shouldn't be in the playoffs. That'd be my.
But here's the problem: it skews the schedule. Now you're giving another team a bye, and they may have had a bye. All of a sudden, Wilmington, for example, they're not playing for 3 weeks.
It does skew everything. You're right.
The only way you could solve this and remedy it is to go back to the old classifications and no state championship game. But the athletic directors voted that down.
No.
In District 10, Wilmington, they're the number 1 seed. They get a bye. How good's Farrell? They beat Wilmington 38-0.
Really good.
Yeah.
Plus the prep 7-0. That's enough for me.
Now here's an interesting matchup in District 9. It'll be number 1 Central Clarion 10-0. They're going to take on Karn City 8-2 at Brookville. Just a month ago, they beat Karn City 65-0.
Yeah,
All you have to know about Central Clarion is they come in and beat Butler 49-14. Their quarterback, Jace Ferguson, for his career, 9,000 yards passing, 138 touchdowns.
Yeah, I've heard about this
41 this year.
I've heard about this team a long time ago.
They're
hard,
good.
They're hard to beat. Yeah,
Someone please beat Southern Columbia.
please.
And then in 1A, number 3, Union AC Valley 7-3. They take on Otto Eldred 7-1.
Otto Eldred comes up all the time, don't they, George? That
Yeah,
name comes
every
up?
year.
Yes.
All right, let's go to our stories of the week. You know, the NFL, it's Halloween, and the NFL is really a trick-or-treat league. For some teams, it's a fun house, and others, it's a house of horrors. Let's go the Steelers first, 26-18 over the Giants, and a penalty-marred first half. Each team with touchdowns called back. The Steelers MVP, as far as I'm concerned, Chris Bosworth, 4 field goals, a punt return for a touchdown, 73 yards by Austin, but only 1 offensive touchdown. They did have another one called back. Russell Wilson, 278 yards passing, and underappreciated running back, Najee Harris, his 3rd straight 100-yard game.
Well, the offensive line plays well, the Steelers play well. And that's just it's a fact in the NFL, just not the Steelers. We always talk about skill. It's an offensive line driven game. Just watch that game last night.
That coach was so exasperated.
Yes.
He had the dude blocking Watt. He was giving him a father-son talk
I know he was.
because there was nothing he could
That's
do.
what I'm saying. When your
Yes.
line cannot block, it's troubling for me to watch the NFL because there's nothing they can do. Like they just rush the pass like that. They're getting trounced.
It's just, I understand the penalties, but there's so many
Too
of
many.
them.
It's too many.
And once again, I watch the line play. I swear, please watch. There's holding every single play.
Mm-hmm.
They just, whenever they feel like throwing that flag, they'll
Well,
throw
if you wrap your hand around,
all the time.
yeah.
But do you ever hear holding on a 1-yard run?
No, never.
Even if everyone's holding him, put them in a chokehold, they won't throw a flag.
They don't study the game like we do. I mean that. Like they put a rule in that the tackle cannot be back that far.
Past his hips.
So since they moved him up, do you understand a guy trying to block Watt?
Yeah.
I think let him start back there. So what's an inch mean?
Yes.
I don't. It make me sick.
And this weekend, I'd say at least 3 times I saw roughing the quarterback penalties where there was it was a normal tackle.
Like the one guy fell in.
Put us on the committee.
And I was thinking, where's he supposed to fall? He wrapped him, and they said he fell on him. Well, what's he supposed to do? Levitate?
Hey, and here's one of my pet peeves. They're big tight end. Announcers, when there's a small one, 5'8", 160,
yell at
they
it.
say they're small tight end.
0.
They're all from college
huge.
to pros. They're 6'4", 250 and up. All right, so we look at the Steelers division. The Steelers are on top now, 6-2, followed by Baltimore, Cincy, and Cleveland, 2-6. Talk about trick or treat. Cleveland and quarterback Jameis Winston, 29, the Ravens, 24. This is a different looking team with Winston. Even though the Ravens dropped, 2 interceptions.
Yeah, late.
Kyle Hamilton
Late
could have won the
Ravens,
game.
yeah.
He drops it. And the offense, they dropped 2 touchdown passes
Mm-hmm.
from Lamar Jackson.
Oh, yeah. The one
But
he said some was his
As you said a week ago, this Baltimore defense, it's not the defense
Not the
of
same
the past.
team.
It's not the same.
They're great offensively. They're not great.
Yes.
They're not good. But I know the Cleveland people. I'm talking about the players and the coaches. They were happy. They were happy. Not that we don't want to get killed.
Right.
But let's make sure
We
he's
don't
out for
want
the
him
season.
Yeah.
Well, look at the difference of the team playing.
Oh,
Look
Greater
at the
energy.
Colt from Flacco's in there. Those other guys in that locker room.
They
They have to
They
be
know.
looking around saying, geez, I hope Joe's in there.
They know.
We have a chance. Tennessee. Rudolph might not be Joe Montana, but he's better than Levis.
Yes.
They know.
Hey, next up for Baltimore, 5-3. Look out. They take on surging Denver, 5-3. Baltimore by 8.5
Denver's
at Baltimore.
getting them at a bad time.
Yeah, it's bad
Getting them
time.
at a
Yeah.
bad time.
That's true.
Cleveland 2-6. They take on the Chargers, 4-3. The Chargers favored by I think 3 points in that game.
Were they lousy offensively? My
Yeah,
gosh, they were.
You talk about
But
old
defense,
school.
they're one of the best
Yeah,
defenses.
they good defense. Yeah.
They're the Iowa of the
they are.
NFL.
They really are.
Yeah,
Yep.
they want to get 17.
Yep.
Hey, Eagles 37, Cincy 17. Jalen Hurts 3 rush TDs. Saquon Barkley 108 yards. Cincy can't run the ball. 58 yards rushing. That might be their season high for them. Next up, Cincy 3-5. They take on the woeful Raiders 2-6. Cincy by 8.5.
Yeah, Cincinnati. They keep telling me how good they are, and I don't see it.
No. Well,
When you're-
hey,
yeah.
I misread them. I had them
Well,
at the top.
but
I had
not
Cleveland
the
too.
But you can't be 2-5 and say, "Well, we only need to go 8-2." What? Only you're 2-5.
Can't run the ball. Just can't run it. Hey, you know, at one time I thought the greatest Hail Mary of all time was the Doug Flutie Hail Mary against Miami until Sunday when I clicked on in the final minutes with no time remaining and Washington quarterback Jaden Daniels, he heaved a 65-yard missile for the game-winning 52-yard touchdown pass to Noah Brown while the Chicago defensive back had his back
How about that?
to the
was
talking to the
talking-
players on the sideline.
Talking to the crowd.
Didn't he never hear Yogi Berra? It's not over till it's over.
Right.
And then he tips the ball in the
Yeah,
air.
he tipped.
There's no one behind the receiver in the end zone. That's a crushing defeat.
It is. That might cost the Bears coach his job before it's all over.
Well, I tell you what, that player, he'd be deactivated.
Oh, for sure.
me. I'd be putting him on
That
waivers.
night. But I have two thoughts because I was a football coach forever. Number one, you don't spy the quarterback. George called me right away.
I said they were spying.
What do
You
you
want him to run.
You want him to run the ball. That's number one.
70 yards.
And number two, 50 years ago when I was at a clinic, I put my own clinic on, prevent defense. You play 10, but you always have one. Always one behind the play. Always.
Always.
In case the ball's tipped in the air. They didn't have anybody back there. It's just poor coaching.
Hey, college football, number 18, Pitt, 41, Syracuse, 13. You see the 41 points. How many yards did Pitt have on offense?
They didn't do good offense.
217.
I was there, Eddie.
Yeah.
Yeah, 217.
I was there.
Yeah.
I never saw anything like that. But the three, right? Three
Three
touchdowns.
bring back.
The first time ever for a power football team to return 3
I was there.
picks for touchdowns in the first half of play. Their defense has come up big the last 2 weeks
Yeah.
against Cal, 17-15, where the offense has struggled.
Mm-hmm.
And now they go to play SMU, 28-27 winner over Duke, when Duke went for 2 at the end of the game. SMU turned the ball
But
over.
they missed the extra point. Should have been overtime.
Yeah.
They missed the extra point.
And SMU turned the ball over six times. Duke 0 points over those 6
Yeah.
turnovers. So this will be an interesting game.
I really like SMU's team. I'm a big SMU guy.
Hey.
Well, if the quarterback's hurt, Pitt will get trounced. He has to pass concussion protocol.
Wow, talk about a quarterback being hurt. Penn State 28, Wisconsin 13. Defense held the Badgers to 81 yards rushing. Big back-to-back wins for Penn State against Southern Cal and Wisconsin. Next, number 4, Ohio State at Penn State. But quarterback Drew Allar is questionable for the game.
George likes the backup. George likes him a lot.
Does he? Okay.
I think Propula gives him a better chance because he can move.
Hey, Slippery Rock was idle. They're 6-1. They're at Clarion. They've dropped out of the top 25, and Grove City rebounded. They went from number 6. They dropped to number 15 with 56-7 win, 59-7 over Teal and Knock grad Scott Frazier caught 7 passes for 125
He can
yards.
catch him, buddy.
What a career!
That Frazier family's had a great career
Yeah.
out of Knock.
Yeah.
Great career out of Knock.
Yeah.
Hey, that's it for us. We've run out of time. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next week.